What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Scarlet and Grape Bucks and Brew, this Fan Friday edition. We got our coffee going, and on Friday, we're going to start trying to do this. Bring in a fan, bring in somebody that's been a fan of the show, fan of the podcast, or just a fan of Buckeye football. Maybe we just connect, make new friends through this. 8 days until Buckeye football. You know what I really enjoyed yesterday? Oh, hey, we guys got a big guest coming in just a second, so sit tight. What I really enjoyed yesterday was you guys commenting your location, and I asked for that, and you guys did it, and I love seeing when you were outside Ohio. We had some Springfield, Missouri. We had California. Comment your location, even if you're in Ohio. I like seeing the small town guys. I'm up here close to Cleveland. The guest is close to Columbus. I'm from two small towns in Ohio, New Lebanon and Hillsborough, so I like seeing where people are from. Comment your location. Let me know. All right. I'm going to enter our guest, okay? Mr. Ohio is on the line. If you do not follow him on Twitter, I don't know where you have been. He has way more followers than me because I am way too honest. And he is smarter than me, and 30,000 followers, just building an account because he loves Buckeye football. So, Mr. Ohio, welcome to the YouTube version. I know you used to be an audio guy. Welcome to the YouTube version of Scarlet and Grape.
Thanks, Johnny. Thanks for having me on, man. Yeah, it is 6:30 in the morning. Got a nice cup of coffee going. It's a good morning. Nice to talk to you. I'm glad you could have me on. I'm not really sure about a better follower than you, though. I tend to speak my mind, and as I'm sure you have seen and others have seen, it tends to make people upset because I like you do not have a backing of like a major company or media brand. We can kind of just say what we want to say, and I don't think people are ready for that sometimes, but I'm going to keep saying what I'm saying, and I think you're going to keep doing what you're doing too, and that's what's great about Twitter.
Yeah, well, I'll do it politically. You'll do it. That's where it ruins me. But you do it last year, I remember you and I were both, we may not look smart now, but we were both not afraid to say, like, hey, CJ Stroud's not playing the way he should, or 2 years ago. And I always appreciated you for that, but I just appreciated you for being a pretty solid dude and getting to know a little bit about you. And you and I have a lot in common, actually. It's a lot in common, too, even when it comes to the family, timing of things. I'll leave it at that. But I'm so glad you're here, dude. I want to talk to you about what's going on with the team at 6:30, like you said, in the morning. No better way to start a morning, in my opinion, than coffee and talking Buckeyes. We're 8 days out. Real quick, from the audience, besides commenting your location, I need a favor from you. Really quick. You know how hard it was? Zach Smith was supposed to be on the show Tuesday, bailed because it was too early. Chris Drew, same thing. B. Moses, same thing. I need you to get on Twitter and blast those guys. They talk about, CJ don't have that dog in him. No, you ain't got that dog in you. I got to go to work in a minute. I'm up here early in the morning doing this. Mr. Ohio's up here early in the morning doing this. So call those guys out on Twitter. Zach Smith, Chris Drew, Brendan Moses. I love to see you guys just blast them all day long. All right, Mr. Ohio, let's get to the show. Biggest concern for this team going into the 2023 season, what keeps you up at night?
So if you were to ask most people, I think right now the biggest concern is the unknown at quarterback and how is the offensive line going to perform. My answer to this is going to be a little different. My biggest concern is, can the defense play up to the level that we expect them to play at? We have studs all over the defense. The biggest concern is CJ Hicks, is Sonny Styles, is Jack Sawyer. Are they going to take that leap to the next level? We're all expecting them to take that leap to the next level, which is why we're all expecting to have a much better defense this year. But that's my biggest concern. And it's not really a concern, but we haven't seen it happen yet. So that's why I'm labeling it as a concern. But I I do think and I believe that all of those guys are going to be able to step up. I mean, we got Jack Sawyer down on the line. He's going to be so much better on the line, especially next to like a three tech like Tyleek Williams or Mike Hall.
Right.
It's just going to open up the gaps for him. I think Jack Sawyer is going to eat this year for sure. But yeah, I'm excited to see CJ Hicks and Sonny Styles, but not really concerned. But that's obviously I'm slightly concerned about the offensive line, even though what Day said last week, where he feels comfortable about the depth heading into the season, it kind of it made me feel a little bit better about the offensive line. But I know that he's expecting greatness, and everyone hears that we're struggling, and they think that we're all of a sudden Indiana. I think we're way past that point. Day wants the best offensive line in the nation. He doesn't want a team that just can beat Indiana. So I'm not as concerned really about anything. I think the sky's the limit for this team this year.
Wow, that's big faith for the offensive line. Yeah, they concern me because, like I said, if you watch the show with the one I did with Corey last week, I was like, hey, the Buckeye beat's always positive in the offseason. And if you're experienced, you kind of start dodging that, right? Like, okay, they're just fluffing it. Off-season hype doesn't get me. I'm sure it doesn't get you anymore. But when they were saying things like, I don't know, they were very like monotone and we'll get better at offensive line. And I'm like, my goodness, it must be dreadful because you guys never warned us about Kerry Combs' defense in the offseason on the beat. Because I can only imagine what the Ryan Day offense did to CJ or to Kerry Combs' defenses in practice. Would it be fair for you to say, Mr. Ohio, then, since defense is your biggest concern of the unknown, you're not, I know, guys, calm down, Mr. Angry Commenter guy. Calm down. He's not saying they're going to be bad. He's saying he doesn't know. So that's his biggest concern. Would it be fair to say as the defense goes, this team goes?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, all you have to do is look back to the last 10 years of how Ohio State has performed. They are better when they have an elite defense. Look at 2014, look at 2019.
Mm-hmm.
When our defense is great, we are great. It's almost you can expect our offense to put up 42 to 47 points a game. So that's not as much of a concern. I think that Day's going to figure out a way to score points, even if the offensive line is not performing like we think they should.
Yeah. Last year, did you pick up on this, Mr. Ohio, that in the game last 2 years, when you had this massive high-powered, Marvin Harrison, CJ Stroud, Garrett Wilson offense, that when they played good teams and when the defense failed, the offense also failed. Did you notice, those losses? We never scored 30 against Michigan.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, we did score against Georgia, but the defense started to play better against Georgia. Same thing between Georgia and Michigan. I think our defense played better than people are giving them credit for. It was just the breakdown on a few plays.
Yeah, it was boom and bust. It was boom or bust.
Yeah. We had a lot of booms in those games, and no one's acknowledging that. I could go down a huge rabbit hole with the Michigan game. I've broken that one down as far as you can break that down, and I'm not as concerned about Michigan as Michigan fans think we should be.
Yeah. Yeah, my buddy Wise Dan, he always used to say, score 30, you'll win. And I'm like, well, that shouldn't be a problem for this offense. But you see when they were scoring like either 50 or 23, that's what lack of a run game will do to you, and a quarterback that kind of would seek out the home run. What's your record prediction for this team this year, given you have a lot of I don't knows?
So I was on, shameless plug here, I was on the Eyes on Big podcast. They do a really good job talking about Big Ten football. So they had me on to talk about Ohio State, and it wasn't towards an Ohio State crowd. So I try not to be a homer there. I gave an 11-1 prediction. Okay. I think I'm going to stick with that prediction just because we got 4 really tough games this year. Wisconsin could be really good this year. I think that Wisconsin's offense is going to take a huge step forward this year. I mean, they have a very good quarterback, very good running back. So if our defense is not performing at a high level, Wisconsin could eat us alive. Notre Dame's got a legit quarterback now. Penn State could have a legit quarterback. We're all assuming he will be good, but
Yeah,
there's
he's
huge
from right down the street where this is where this is being recorded. Yeah.
Yeah. So just like we've seen a lot of guys in the past, when Ohio guys leave Ohio and they play Ohio State, for some reason they always play up. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough schedule. Say that to SEC fans and they'll disagree, but when you have to play Michigan, Wisconsin, Notre Dame, that's no joke. That's a tough schedule right there. So I'm going with 11-1. But I think that our one loss is not going to be against Michigan. So Michigan would be 11-0. We would beat Michigan and still go to the Big Ten championship playoffs, win the national championship. You heard it here first.
Wow, natty. So it's cool. 11-1's like the safe pick. 10-2's we stink. 12-0's we're awesome. 11-1, but we rebounded, beat Michigan, who will be a highly ranked team. Got into the playoffs, gave a 1-2 to some school out west, and then beat an SEC team. Mr. Ohio, you heard it here first. And he even tries not to be a homer. He's trying to be real for real. Okay. What's your take on QB? We saved it for the end, but I mean, I got to ask, and let's hear what Mr. the probably most influential common man in Ohio State space. What's your take on it, brother?
I am not.
By the way, that hurt me to say. That hurt me to compliment you. I don't know if you ever see me publicly duel with Mr. Ohio. That hurt me to compliment you, but you deserve it.
It should hurt you. You and your measly followers know that. Got to tear you down while you're already down.
Yeah.
No, thanks, Justin. You're a great follow as well. So I'd say I just got lucky getting a lot of followers.
You built the page. You built the page astutely. You've done a very nice job with it, and the proof is in the pudding. But they don't care. Quarterback.
So I mean, I've listened to all of Ryan Day's press conferences, and I am not concerned about quarterback. A lot of people are concerned because they haven't picked a guy yet. If you follow me, you kind of know my thoughts on this already.
Please expound on that, though, because I've been screaming the same thing. Please expound.
Yeah. So the reason I'm not concerned is because Ryan Day is trying to pick a guy, like I said earlier about the offensive line, he's trying to pick a guy who's good enough to win the national championship. He's not trying to pick a guy who's good enough to go win 10 games, throw 3,800 yards. He wants a guy who can win the national championship. And I think he has two of those guys right now who he feels confident enough to win the national championship in. So he's really trying to break down the small, minute details that makes that guy get to that elite level. Like some guys saw Joe Burrow have that elite trait when he was at Ohio State, broke his hand, never really got a chance. I think Ryan Day's really taking his time to make sure he makes the right decision. On the field, I think both of these guys are performing at the same level. To prepare for this, you gave me about a day or so. So I kind of broke down some numbers, and we all know it. So when I broke it down, it was very obvious, but it was glaring to see. So it kind of surprised me in terms of points per game and total yards per game. Our best offense under Ryan Day, which includes the 2018 season when he was offensive coordinator, was 2021. We averaged 45.7 points per game, which was just under 2019, but total yards per game was 560, which is almost 30 more yards per game than any other season. The big red flag for 2021, though, our rushing yards per game was only 180, where when we had Justin Fields, it was 250. So we had an elite dynamic offense, but Michigan didn't have that elite dynamic defense yet. So we could just kind of do what we wanted, and they still beat us. But they beat us because we were one-dimensional. And
Yes.
I think Ryan Day, that's why a lot of people are leaning towards Devin Brown, because Ryan Day doesn't want to be one-dimensional. Our best offenses were 2019 and 2020 under Ryan Day, and we were averaging 70 more yards per game on the ground, and our quarterback was running the ball 10 more times per game than CJ has been. I mean, and CJ doesn't even run. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Justin Fields was averaging 34.5 yards per game and 47 yards per game. And then CJ's first year, 21, when we had our best offense, he averaged negative 1.6 yards per game. We struggled to run the ball, and it's because we didn't have a quarterback to run. Michigan figured out if you stop our pass attack, that we can't really run. We're one-dimensional, and Ryan Day realized that, and you can see it in the numbers. Our numbers started to climb. Our rush yards per game started to climb last year under CJ Stroud. Day knew that CJ wasn't that running quarterback, but he was still trying to implement, in my opinion, what he wanted to do, because he realized our offense was better when he had a guy with legs like Justin Fields. So that's why I think that he's going to go with Devin Brown, just because he knows he has more of an attack with his legs. But I'm not concerned either way. I mean, you put in Kyle McCord, and we could put up numbers like we did with Dwayne Haskins and CJ Stroud his first 2 years. I wouldn't say our offense struggled. It's more that we were one-dimensional. If they can figure out how to misdirect without having a quarterback run the ball, then by all means do it. I mean, bring back that little basketball pass if you have to.
Do you remember, real quick, Mr. Hyde, do you remember the Dwayne, who's less mobile than both of these quarterbacks, at the end of the season when he started just being a willing runner? Do you remember how that changed the offense?
I mean,
you remember
with CJ Stroud last year in the Georgia game? It's crazy.
Yeah, but he can actually, we knew he could actually move. Like, he wasn't Braxton, but he was like maybe post-injury JT, except the gnarly yards after contact, Yeah,
he was like a hybrid between JT and Terrell Pryor.
Yeah, he could move. And, I think both these guys can. But you remember the very first, that first beatdown, 62-39 Michigan. You know what the first play of the game on offense was for us? Zone read. Dwayne Haskins keeps 9 yards. That changes things. That changes. If Dwayne could get 9, I think me or you could have got, rest in peace to the greatest, but 7 or 8, So, do you now? I like that you said this is not. People are like, well, this guy's McCord's struggling to separate himself. What if Devin's really good? Right? What if it's because Devin's freaking really good? And then and how come Devin never gets? Well, he's struggling to take it from Kyle, who people say sucks. And I'm like, what if they're just both really good? And Day, and like Corey said, styles make fights. Maybe because of offensive line concerns, Brown's just a little more mobile, and that's why he's there.
Yeah, I completely agree. Granted, you have to do some speculation, but if you break down what Ryan Day said, he was asked, do you believe in the old adage that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one? Ryan Day came out right away and said, no, I don't believe in that. And then went out of his way to compare the situation to if he had Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. You don't go out of your way to compare 2 quarterbacks you have to 2 elite quarterbacks unless you feel confident in both of your quarterbacks.
Exactly. He said you just wouldn't say that. That came from, I think, back in the day of mediocre quarterbacks. Now, I don't think you can do that in the games. I don't think you can play 3-4 games switching, the Drew Henson, Tom Brady, Cardale Jones, JT Barrett flipping quarterbacks for series. No. I don't think you can do that, because you're playing tight. I had a basketball coach would take you out of the game for every mistake you made, and you just play way too tight that way. So I don't think you do that. everybody on this show, I'm glad we got a Devin Brown prediction. Everybody on this show, I've been Team McCord. I started doubting. Now, listen, we all know things we can't say. I'm still on Team McCord. I think he's going to be the starter. I think there's no, I'll keep him around so he doesn't transfer. If he's not the starter, like I said yesterday, a smart guy would redshirt. He would not split snaps. You only have 2 years of eligibility left to be a millionaire. But it's odd. You see, he just signed a deal with Roback, the very expensive. They sell like $94 polos, $120 pullovers.
He was throwing passes in those really nice shirts.
So, I mean, it seems like it's not really a QB2 type of thing. So we will see. I'm fine either way. My take is Kyle McCord's been ahead all. They said one guy was really ahead and then the other guy closed the gap. If you read between the lines, that is Kyle McCord was way ahead. This is what I think happened. Kyle's way ahead. Devin then had a few moments in practice where people went, ooh. Because when you watch him in spring, Devin's got that little bit of pop to him, that magic to him. And the people started to say, well, what if this upside's really high? What if we can clean up these issues he's having? Because I don't think he's probably as secure with the ball as Kyle. And then they saw Kyle elevate his game because Devin was pushing him. And then he's like, well, let me just ride this out. Because whatever happens, they're actually getting better battling each other. I think we'll get an announcement soon that it's going to be Kyle. And I think that he's probably getting most of the first team reps. But if it's Devin, I'm fine. Because that means Devin's really freaking good to beat out a guy that's driving a Mercedes and that Vegas thinks she'll start. So I'm good either way. Real quick, game time routine. Let me know yours, guys. Do you eat something special? Do you do anything special? Mr. Ohio, what do you do for games? What's the best fan in the land do?
I recently redid my basement about 2 years ago.
I saw that. You did a great job, my friend. You were, as a young, handsome man, you have a little grit to you. People on this show know I appreciate a man's man. So you did a really good job on that basement, by the way.
Appreciate it. Yeah, that's like you were saying earlier, we're similar in a lot of ways. That's definitely one of the ways we're both willing to get dirty. But yeah, so I love it down here. I come down here. I have 2 TVs on every single game. I'm not good during commercials, so I always have to have another TV on to watch another game. My game time routine, I don't drink. I'll usually drink like a beer if it's a noon game, but if it's a 7:30, so I'll base all of this off of like a 7:30 games. That's right around dinner time. So I'll usually pour a glass of whiskey. We'll make some buffalo chicken dip. If it's early in the season, I'll go grill some burgers before the game. If it's post October and a little too cold where I don't feel like going outside and just watching football inside, we'll make chili. And then games say they're usually supposed to start around 7:30. We all know they're not going to start for 15 or 20 minutes after. So to kill the time, I have a dartboard in my basement, so I always play darts to kill some time before the game. But yeah, not any major routines, but gotta have a little whiskey and some darts to calm the nerves before a big football game.
Now, do you and you have game time food and stuff? Is that an invite? Are you inviting me to do your game time routine down there sometime into the basement?
Yeah, you are 2 hours away, but if you're ever in the area and you want to come watch a football game, yeah, you're welcome to stop by, Johnny.
Same thing. You can come up here. You can come up here to my pad here outside of Cleveland. I do go there. Like, it'd be funny if I go down there to watch a game and it's not to Zach's house. Because I'll tell you, man, Zach can cook. Zach's hooked me up. After the Notre Dame game, I went to his house. I'm a wing snob. This dude put wings in front of me.